Hi, I'm the Prodigal Fish, and I want to talk to you about something I really enjoy, and that something is Warhammer 40k. What exactly is it? You may have heard of Blood for the Blood God, Skull for the Skull Thrones, maybe WoW Daka, but what does it mean? It all belongs to the over-encompassing world of Warhammer 40k. It is set in the year 40,000 AD. I have a friend named Marlin, and he wanted to know more about it, and as I was explaining it, I realized that there is just hours and hours and hours of this stuff, so I decided to make these videos for him, really. But if you like it and enjoy it, then that's just a win. So I plan on just doing an overall, general, synopsis of what it is, and as time goes by, I'll make separate videos more in depth about subjects. So, I hope you enjoy it, and, well, let's see how it goes. Warhammer 40k is set in the 40,000 year, where humanity has ventured beyond the stars, or terror as it's called in this universe. Quadrillions upon quadrillions of human beings live in thousands of worlds under a single galactic empire known as the Imperium of Mankind. Terra's armies are limitless, as billions upon billions of men and women are called to arms to fight the enemies of mankind. Technology there is even more advanced than anything we have now. Body parts can be replaced with cybernetics or robotics with ease, and it can increase the lifespan of a human being for decades, even centuries. Soldiers known as Imperial Guardsmen use laser weapons that can punch through cars or any body armor with ease. Imagine just, the best class 4 armor now wouldn't be able to stand up to it. This thing would punch a dinner-sized plate hole right through your chest. Humanity is no longer bound to one world, and they can take to the stars with its armada of thousands of starships. It sounds nice, except it isn't. To be human in the Imperium is to be insignificant. Most citizens only own the clothes on their backs. They will work one job, likely never see the sun in their hive cities, which have populations of billions and have so many floors. Most people on the bottom will never see the sun. Most will never leave the planet, or they will succumb to the disease, malnutrition, and crimes that just riddles the lower levels. On top of the crime, there are alien threats that also want to destroy humanity. These are called Xenos. What kind of Xenos are there? First, there's the bloodthirsty, fearless greenskins known as the Orcs. These monstrosities live for combat and embark on planet-ending crusades known as Great Wars. Every creature is made up of a certain kind of fungus that will eventually grow into a massive orc. Every single spore has to be burned away because of it isn't uncommon for liberated worlds to experience another uprising like decades later after a world's been pacified. Orcs live for war, and they are powered by, this kind of sounds stupid, the power of belief. If they believe that their weapons, that are typically just pipes and sticks and they make no sense, will work, they will work. And when a regular human scientist grabs a weapon, they about have a stroke trying to figure out how this PVC pipe is shooting rockets out. Orcs have a certain belief. They believe in the twin gods called Orc and Mork, which are twins that always fight. And they love to fight so much that they send their children, the orcs, out to go destroy entire planets. So orcs literally have the power of belief. And they think that if something will work, it will work just because they think it will. They paint their cars yellow to go faster, red to hit harder, and they even paint themselves purple. If you ever ask them, they'll say, because purple is a sneaky color, because have you ever seen a purple orc? Next we have the elves, which are called the Eldar, or the Eldar. And there are two kinds of Eldar. The Eldari, or the High Elves, are closer to more of Gerald Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, except they're not. They were once the most powerful race in the universe. Imagine that every single one of them was a billionaire. They were way too advanced, they couldn't even bother to fight their own wars, so they just made robots. And they were so successful that they got bored and they started doing stupid things. Now that things are beyond them, what do they do for free time? They have orgies and they get drunk because they live forever. Once they get bored of that, they start murdering each other. And once that gets boring, they start having orgies with the murder victims. From then, they just keep raising the stakes until it got so bad they literally gave birth to the Chaos God Slaanesh, which I'll cover the Chaos Gods in another video in depth. They just want to survive since Slaanesh has literally claimed every elf's soul. And whenever an elf dies, they go to Slaanesh, where Slaanesh will continue to do the things that made them, like for all of eternity. So, dying isn't really an option to these guys. So this kind of motivates them to not fight pointless wars or try to conquer other planets if necessary. This doesn't mean they won't fight. They'll gladly fight, well, humanity and any other race. And they're kind of arrogant. They like to call humans Monkai or monkeys. You know, because that's nice. The other group of elves we have are the Drukhari, or the Dark Elves. Instead of running from Slaanesh or becoming, pure, they have fully embraced doing the exact same things they did to May the Chaos God. Now they survive by committing unspeakable acts, really to prisoners or to even each other. And they do this kind of as a down payment to Slaanesh, so Slaanesh won't just kill them and do it already. So imagine they have to keep doing evil stuff to kind of survive. They love to raid human worlds and take millions of prisoners for their sick little games or slavery. The worst part is that you can't even die. They'll just resurrect you and keep doing the horrible stuff they were doing to you before you died. These are only a few of the countless Xenos that want to destroy humanity. We haven't even dug into the hive mind bugs known as the Tyranids. These bugs literally consume everything made of flesh to add to their overall collective. Their purpose for an invasion can be summed up with the mission statement to collect their biomass. They like meat, and buddy, you're meat. Another race is the Necrons, and these guys are essentially undead robots who gave up their souls in a bad trade. And fun fact, they keep their former gods, or whoever they fought, called the Catan, as like Pokemon. They love to use them as battle. After they did that, they went right to sleep. And they really weren't part of the big story until some machine-worshipping explorers of the Adeptus Mechanicus, we'll hear about them later, accidentally woke them up on purpose. Now their Necrons rampage the galaxy, purging all the lesser races because someone ruined their nap, which is pretty understandable. I mean, we've all been there. Before I get into the main threat against humanity, I'll tell you about the newest one called the Tau. The Tau are some blue fish people that live they serve something called the greater good, and all they really want to do is just expand their new universe. They are the most advanced, and they have weapons that are far better than the Imperium's. But overall, they just want to collect things for the greater good. But all you really got to know about them is they got this little slit in their face that the internet's obsessed about that I'm not going to get into. They have long-range guns, and they suck at melee. So, yeah. Hate them. Now finally we get into the biggest threat to humanity, the 4 Chaos Gods. These 4 evil deities strive to destroy all of humanity, well really and subjugate the entire universe in existence. They're Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh. Each god represents a major trait of humanity, in the good and the bad. First up is my favorite, Khorne. Khorne is the god of war, the architect of slaughter and violence. If you ever have heard blood for the blood god, skull for the skull throne, it references to what his followers will scream at all times during the day. Khorne's followers love to fight, and they will kill anything. They love violence, war, and slaughter. They even fight each other. Another saying to illustrate their bloodlust is Khorne does not care where the blood comes from as long as there is blood. So they will literally go to a world, fight everything on the world they consider weaker, and then they turn on each other. So, it's kind of worked itself out. Next we have Tzeentch. I hate him. He's the god of knowledge and fate, trickery, and just being an overall asshole. He knows all things and he's kind of a dick. Literally, Tzeentch will trick anyone who comes seeking for help or knowledge. And so, because the Imperium is so backwards, you have an entire race called the Adeptus Mechanicus. And they live on Mars. These are essentially humans that replace their body parts with like machines, and they worship something called the Omnissiah. But because technology is so held back there, they're not allowed to ever explore. So it's not uncommon for them to go to him. But what makes Tzeentch such a dick, right, is you have to sell your soul for something, and he'll trick you about it. Like say your kid was sick and you needed something to cure their suffering. After you gave him your soul, he'd give you a shotgun. So his followers, usually academics, scientists, intellectuals, and they just kind of want to get smarter, but they just go insane because Tzeentch is selfish, and I hate him, and he's dumb. Go Khorne. Going back to disease, we're going to get into the 3rd Chaos God. His name is Nurgle. He is the master of disease and death. And why? Because everything will eventually die, and death brings rebirth and a new beginning. He just wants to spread disease and rot to every bit of existence. It's just a normal mission statement. At least he's straight up about it. Afterwards, he's going to rebuild everything in kind of a weird, twisted way of decay and rot. So, usually his followers were inflicted with horrible diseases, right? And since the Imperium doesn't really care about anyone because you're just a machine, they'll look for some relief, and next thing you know, Papa Nurgle comes down and takes away all their pain. And then so usually everybody that follows Nurgle is always happy, and they're happy because they're not in pain anymore, and they just want to spread that rot all over it. So they kind of want to spread his gift. Only problem is once you you become infected with his disease, you just kind of get covered in boils and you're just literally falling apart. They're not scared to die because they feel no pain, and when they fight and die, they're just gonna get reincarnated as just a bigger monster of Nurgle. So it's not too bad. It's a good deal. Not for me personally, because I mean, would you really want to look like that? And lastly, we have Slaanesh. And if I don't seem too excited about it, because Slaanesh is not a good deal. Let me explain why. So Slaanesh is the god of drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds good, but just wait. So life in the 40k universe sucks, and it's no wonder why anybody would be looking for anything to escape it. So Slaanesh isn't as great as it seems, because to serve Slaanesh is to indulge in the excess of everything. Too much food, you get sick. Too much alcohol, you become an alcoholic. Get too into Warhammer and you make YouTube videos. So it's a cause and effect kind of thing. Slaanesh is like a drug dealer. And he, she, it, whenever they figure it out, they'll give you like a first strong hit of dopamine or serotonin, your first actual experience of happiness. And everything feels great because you finally know joy, but then that high wears off. And then when it does, you have to go commit like a horrendous crime. And we're talking about like death penalty stuff. And if every crime or the worse the acts get, the less the effect of like the happy chemicals kicking in. And you literally will keep going to do worse and worse and worse things till eventually there's no line you'll cross because you have to just do worse and worse. We're talking about murders, just all kinds of horrible things. And the sad part is the biggest rush you'll ever get is when you finally die. And yeah, so go Slaanesh, yeah, ooh-wee. With so many of these threats just wanting to destroy humanity, what holds them together? The answer is the God Emperor of mankind. The Emperor is a man who survived like all of our history and made his play when the world finally destroyed itself. And he conquered all of Terra and he sent his forces out to the stars. But to accomplish this, he created 22 sons, which 2 got lost. Nobody knows where they're at. Maybe they'll bring them back. So he really had 20. So every single one of these kids had like a specific trait about him that was one of his best traits to help them, really define them. So Horus was the first, and he was incredibly charismatic. Rogo Dorn, who's my personal favorite, was a builder, and Robuta Gilliman is a skilled leader. And he already had an empire before he met his dad, but as the Emperor went around and he found them all, he started bringing them to kind of his whole idea of expanding the empire. And some of them he was pretty cool with, like they talked how to be, or he challenged in the game. Some he straight up just bullied, so yeah. Wait till we get to the Horus Heresy. So after he found his 20 sons, what they call Primarchs, he gave them all the Space Marine Legion, or an Astartes. So what is a Space Marine? So imagine a 9-foot tall, 800 pounds without armor super soldier that can never get sick, drunk unless you're a space wolf, and they can think and run faster than anybody alive. Every single one of them will share a specific trait of their Primarch. So like Rogodorn's guys are builders, so they're great builders and they're great at defense. So the Ultramarines work for Robuta Gilliman, which are, or some people call the Smurfs. They're just good at everything because they're great and everything. So once the Emperor got them all the little Space Marines and all the little legions and everybody was all happy, he sends them out to like the stars, right? And they go on this massive galactic crusade and they're just whooping everything. Every race they come across gets destroyed. They're bringing humans into the fold, and it looks like they're going to win. And everything went wrong because of the Horus Heresy. I'll make a future video about that, but here's a quick version. So the Emperor knew about chaos. He knew about the Chaos Gods, but they weren't as prevalent as they are in 40,000. Because this is happening 10,000 years before that. And he wanted to create a separate kind of a way for humanity to travel through the stars. Because in this world, the only way to travel through the stars is through the warp. And the warp's where chaos lives. And if you don't have a special shield around your ship called the Geller Field, you're gonna die. It's not gonna be fun, and you're not gonna be okay. And nobody's really gonna go find you because you're dumb because you didn't have a Geller Field. So just as they're about to win the final battle, the Emperor tells Horus, who was his favorite son, he made him a war master, like commander-chief of the whole military. He said, "Hey, I gotta go do something on Terra. You need to just win this war." And Horus is like, "Oh, that's cool, Dad. What are you doing?" And the Emperor said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "Well, why aren't you going to tell me?" He says, "Don't worry about it, because I can't." And he just leaves. So Horus, his character trait is charisma. He's one of the most charismatic guys out there. but he's also incredibly jealous. And he's jealous because the Emperor took a different son, and he didn't take him. So while he's expanding, he gets stabbed by this blade that has some chaos magic in it. And remember that Space Marines cannot get sick. And he gets sick and nobody knows what's doing. Well, nobody knows what to do with him. But there's this horrible guy named Erebus. Nobody likes Erebus. He's a terrible, terrible person, and I'm glad he's dead. Erebus convinces them to go get some magic, and at this point magic's been outlawed because it's dumb, it's stupid, and don't do it. But they're so desperate to save Horus that they allow them to experiment on him. And that's when Horus, and this is where everything goes wrong. The Chaos God, Tzeentch, because he's a dick, shows Horus a vision of the future where the Empire is rotten and in decay, where the Emperor is worshipped as a god. The Emperor never wanted. He went out and destroyed like every religion because he didn't want. He thought that held humanity back. And they show him where he's worshipped as a god, humanity's falling and is so corrupt. And Horus does not want this to happen. So what does he do? Horus goes with his other brothers, and he manages to convince 10 of them to turn against their dad. And they just start murdering their brothers, the other legions. And this horrible, it's pretty badass stuff. So as this is happening, there's one brother, his name is Magnus, and Magnus was a powerful psyker. And psykers are like, and imagine wizards, pretty much like they have the force in this world. It's called the warp. He's like a telepath, and he's trying to tell his dad, the Emperor, that Horus is coming to Terra to kill him. And so he can't get there fast enough, so Tzeentch, being the asshole he is, tells him to kind of, break the wall blocking the Emperor's project called the Human Webway. And Magnus does, and he creates a hole right there, and millions and millions and millions of demons pour into Terra. So now the Emperor has to fight these demons, and he's so pissed off at Magnus. So now he's dealing with that. Horus is fighting the other brothers going back to the galaxy, going through the galaxy to get home. And the Emperor, finally being the absolute badass he is, stops the demons, and he goes to one of his sons, Leman Russ, who runs the Space Wolves. These guys are Vikings, so naturally they're the best people to send for a nice talk. He tells Leman, go get your brother and bring him here for a good spanking. The problem is that Leman and Magnus absolutely hated each other because they were the opposites. Leman is like a Viking. He loves to fight, he likes to drink, he likes to, have fun. And Magnus is kind of a nerd. He just likes to read. And so, Magnus and Leman, they meet up and they have a great Disney-style conversation, and everything is great. No, that's not true. Leman beats like the shit out of him, and Magnus beats the shit out of him, and then Leman snaps Magnus' spine, because that is a normal way to greet a family member. Alright, back from that. So, Magnus ends up, unfortunately, turning to Tzeentch. The Chaos kind of becomes a Chaos Demon, so that's another brother that goes to... So Rogel Dorn, my favorite man, he is a no-nonsense kind of guy. He likes to build. He never really wanted to do the war thing. He just joined the Emperor because he wanted to build something that mattered, an empire that will last forever. So what did he do? He set up Terra's defenses, and I mean, he's pretty good at this, and he set it all up. The demons show up, and Horus shows up, and they just start wiping stuff out of Terra, but they can't get into the palace. They push in, and Horus is just doing, it's so sad. Good God, all this is such a waste. Billions and billions of lives over a stupid fever dream. Good God. The Emperor finally gets off of his throne. He gets tired of this, and he has his buddy Malkador, may he rest in peace, sit on the throne for a while, and he's gonna die because, that chair's not really meant for normal people. And he takes a contingent of Rogel Dorn, my boy, Sanguinius, and a bunch of guardsmen, and he wants to board Horus's ship. So at this point, Horus's forces are losing because, I can't really explain that yet because now we're good. A lot of them are too busy fighting. They're too busy doing horrible stuff to the locals, especially what's his name? Fulgrim, who's just obsessed with the way he looks and perfection. So his soldiers, called the Emperor's Children, are busy playing with the civilians and not fighting. And Horus knows he's going to lose because the other loyalist forces are coming to flank him and just wipe him out. So what does he do? He lowers his shield, and the Emperor takes the bait, and he beams himself on the ship. But while they're on the ship, he scatters them. So Rogel Dorn, my boy, is down on the bottom floor by himself, and he's just not okay. He's just So he's going through the ship just killing his way up there. Sanguinius eventually fights Horus by himself, and Horus kills him. He kills one of the best men out there, but he murders him 100%. Good death. May we all be so fortunate. And then finally he sees his father, the Emperor. Well, the Emperor sees him, and the Emperor doesn't really want to kill his favorite son, so Horus cuts off one of his arms, cuts out one of his eyes, breaks his spine, and just as he's about to kill the Emperor, this normal Giga Chad of a man, this regular guardsman, just stands in front of him, and he tells Horus, "You will not hurt the Emperor." Horus laughs and just swats him like a bug, and that's it. That finally pisses the Emperor off, and the Emperor just does what he should have did the whole time and just beats the living crap out of Horus. And right before Horus is about to die, Horus the Emperor does this massive blast, and he purifies, air quote, Horus' soul. And Horus realizes all the horrible things that he did. And he kind of asks his father to kind of kill him. So the Emperor obliges. So the Emperor kills Horus, Sanguinius is dead, and Rogodorn finally gets there. And Rogodorn feels like a failure because he wasn't there to protect his father. So he picks up his father's mangled body, who's barely alive at this point. And he says, "Father, I can't carry your imperial truth, but I can carry you one last time." So he takes his father down to the throne, sits him there. And from there, the Emperor's only purpose is he acts as a beacon to keep the warp open so humanity can still travel. So now they worship him, and everything's just kind of falling apart. The Primarchs mostly are dead or gone. Rogodorn is nowhere to be found. And the world just seems bleak. And that's what makes 40K so great, because, well, humanity's losing. And they're trying so hard. And they literally throw billions of bodies at a battle. And they'll lose 95% of them to consider it a victory because life is so worthless now. But it's not all bad necessarily. There is one Primarch, Rabute Gilliman. He was wounded, but he finally woke up. And now he's leading a great crusade to kind of retake the Empire. There's new planets being found. I know it seems like a lot of information because it is, and this stuff is great because there's so many things that I wanted to talk about. And as time goes by, I will dive into these subjects, and hopefully I'll get better at making these. Like I said, this is really just for Marlin, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I ask that you like, and if it earned your subscription, that'd be great. I'll never ask for any money or Patreon because I'm not doing this to make a living off it. I'm just doing it for fun. So if you have any questions or have any subjects you want me to cover, just go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I'll see how it goes. So I guess I'll see you guys around. Bye.